Hi guys, welcome to another video on Diablo 3. My name is Wilfred. For those who has been following my channel for quite some time, probably know that I'm very passionate over numbers and working out mathematically how a game is being designed, or how to address certain kind of problem area, or how to make even a build better. So in this video, I'd like to talk exclusively on damage reduction, because I think at the beginning of this season 14, I made a comment in my video saying that I'm still not quite sure how the whole thing works. And because Wizard is so fragile, that kind of prompted me to really look into how the Wizard overall damage reduction should work. And there are actually options out there, like using certain kind of items for either be as Kanai cube or even wearing it, will help to mitigate it. Now I found that Firebird Wizard, by the way, Meteor build, although it's top build in Icy Vein, and I do trust their website a lot, I do find that it's not enjoyable, because some maps I die a lot, the character dies a lot, some map is doing alright, so I would like to have a more consistent kind of experience. So I took a lot of time to try to experience, how to try to understand how a Wizard works in a damage reduction kind of formula. You could extend this to any classes that you may be interested to play, because the theory is the same, the concept is the same. So first thing first, how you look into all this reduction number is that there is a score sheet, of course, to talk about details of your statistics. So you could say that looking at the physical, is say 95.99 plus 58.50. Then you wonder what it really means. And of course, as you move as well, as you move, this thing can go up to quite high. And could it go beyond 100%? Because if you add the numbers up, it appears to be so. So the answer is actually not, because although it shows you A plus B, but the damage reduction is not really A plus B. You mitigate, first of all, 86% of the damage, physical damage, and then you mitigate another 58%. So it's never add together, but it's sort of like one minus that multiply together. Now I'll show you the spreadsheet in just a bit. So now my wife's cooking, by the way, so pardon all the noise in the kitchen. Now, so how do you work all these things out, and what options do you use? Because for Wizard, you could actually use something like, oops, sorry, wrong button. You could use something like a killer Chorus, which is what I'm doing right now, just for, because I found that it's a lot more enjoyable if my character does not die that often. And now with this in the cube, it's actually much better. But say if you don't want to do that, let's see what happened to it. And then you can start with the baseline with this one here. So after that, you can take a look at the score sheet here, and I realize that instead of 58 point something percent, it's become 16.99%. So there is certainly a number reduction from whatever that you've seen before. And then you could ask yourself, how does the rest of it add up? Because how do you combine 81%, and where does the 16% come, or 17% come from? Well, 17% come from something called blur, which decreased damage taken by 17%. So if you go ahead and take it away, what will happen is that you will not see it anymore. Then you look into the score sheet and say, oh, just 81.41%. So that is one reason why the number suddenly become just single number. And then if you say, well, there's another one called the unwavering will, which is when you stand still for 1.5 seconds, your increased resistance, armor, and overall give you the damage reduction. So what if you take it away as well? Well, after you take it away, then of course, obviously, then it will not be the number that you've seen before. It decreases. That would be the baseline if you want to theory craft from there onwards. And then after that, you could also say, because I've got the endless walk kind of a set item, which is the Traveler Pledge, as well as the Compass Rose, they give you another 30%, 50% of the damage reduction while you're moving. So instead of 17, or let's take a look at the lightning one, 76%, it become, then you slowly ramped up to plus another 50%, right? Because I run out of space. So that is how you kind of derive the thing. So I think at the baseline, now that you understand where the number come from, at the baseline, I would say, let's start with the theory crafting with blur, which give me the 17% overall damage reduction. Let's give me the unwavering will, which give me another 20% here and there reduction. So that is the reduction that I have as a baseline. Now, if I choose the the Enchantress, of course, there's also a skill that reduce the damage dealt. Yeah, so it'll give you the damage reduction from a range attack. But if not, then you're not. So now, what else kind of mitigation do you have from a wizard perspective? You have quite a fair bit as well. First thing first, there's Ice Armor. Ice Armor is that you can increase the damage reduction by 12%. All right, that is melee against melee. So that's melee, and then after that, because there's a cube item, I believe here, that will actually reduce the damage by 60% for melee. So as you can see here, the melee resistant right now is over the. I think there's a melee resistance somewhere that says this is the one. There's 0%. There's no reduction. But once you're on the armor, you can see the melee reduction to 60%. So that's another layer of reduction. But there's no reduction towards the missile damage, which is ranged, and that's why my wizard feel really fragile when it comes to the range attack, because I can freeze target around me melee wise, but when it comes to the missile, which is projectile, I will take a lot of hits, and because of this component here. But that's one way to see that. Wizard has other means to mitigate as well. So when you channel your arcane torrent, all right. So because of the rune that I'm using, I take 15% less damage from attack while channeling. So that will also be some of the mitigation as well when you're standing still to give you the extra. So, just to recap, when you stand still, you lose the endless walk kind of like a mitigation from the Traveler Pledge perspective, but you'll gain the 15% plus you gain the, unwavering will kind of like reduction as well. So overall, you lose some, you gain some. But what does that mean? If you do not know, if you do not take time to go through mathematics, you can try and error. You can equip this and see what happens, equip that and see what happens. But if you kind of work out the mathematics a bit, which is what I'm doing right now, it will give you a little bit more like insight on what happened. Now, of course, you have other things like the gear that will help you to, like Firebird, for example. If you look at Firebird, the set number 6 is that whenever an enemy is ignited, you get 3% damage reduction up to 60%, because 20 times 3 is 60%. There is yet another mitigation out there. I personally find that the problem with the Firebird is, against Elite is really good, because you can most likely immediately proc this 20 stats straight away, which is 60% additional damage reduction. But when it comes to trash mob, it's very hard to get even more than 10% because I find it very hard to maintain even more than 3 or 4 mobs that are still alive when I dodge them and become a damage reduction. I personally hope that this stat will actually have a cooldown so that it's easier to maintain the 60% through interaction with the game, and henceforth I don't need to use the Aquila whatever, right? The Aquila Caress, which is the item that I talk about here, which is when I'm above 90% primary resolve, which is I always do, I get reduction by 50%. So, long story short, I know my wizard is very, very fragile. I know it's very unplayable. So what else can I do? I learned the mechanic. I know melee is my friends, range is my enemy. Well, melee is not really my friend, but my character is very strong against melee attack, but very, very, very weak against the range attack. I know that dotting things to gain the buff, Firebird buff, is actually quite challenging as well. So what else can I do? So a couple of options. Either A, stick with whatever ICVN has said and just play your best and try to find the maps that are more playable for your build, or start to work some items into your build. For example, Aquila Caress is one of them, right? So this is one option to do it. Another thing, of course, is a Unity Ring, which is this one here, that whatever damage you take is split between you and your follower. So if your follower has a follower cannot die, so you mitigate half the damage at the tail end, which is fantastic. So now, so all in all, shall I be running with Aquila Cuirass or with the Unity ring when I'm doing solo? If I find that playing without them is kind of unplayable unless I get some really good gear. But the answer is that I can look into a spreadsheet, which I'm going to show you in just a bit. So what I've done is that I look into various kind of scenario. First one is that when I stand still, when I'm moving. Now of course, as you know, when I'm moving, so this is the baseline. Because when I'm moving, I will not have an unwavering wheel. If I stand still for 1.5 seconds, I get additional like 20% armor, increase 20% all resist, and that becomes like overall damage reduction. So when I'm moving, I lose that. However, when I'm moving, and you can have a different kind of combination as well. When I'm moving, I'm having an NS walk, which is giving me another 50% or whatever it is, right? So just imagine if I'm moving here with blur, which is the 17% damage reduction kind of thing, and and versus moving with the Aquila Cuirass. I'm having a different kind of number here. Now, of course, with Aquila Cuirass, it will further kind of help me with my reduction. And if I stand still with my Aquila Cuirass, it's different as well. Now immediately you can see that standing still is actually quite you take a lot of other damage here and there. Just coming from this perspective. And then you may have a melee reduction, and when I did my theory crafting, I used my follower, which is Enchanter, which in real life you don't because you use a Templar, but just say for the argument's sake, because mathematics looks better when things are being balanced. So I've got 6% reduction if I'm using Enchantress, 60% reduction when I'm using my my ring, which is cubed, as well as the ice armor. Then if I'm channeling my Arcane Torrents, I will have Flame Ward reduction, which is 15%. If I use Unity with 50%. So I worked out all the thing here, all the scenario here, or with or without kind of moving or not moving. Let's just stay with the moving first. If I move and I don't use the Aquila Cuirass, no Unity, then as you can see, against melee, I've got 95.77% overall damage reduction. Now what it really means is that 4.23% is not mitigated. Versus when I'm using range, I'm actually about 10% I'm taking, and that's why it hurts a lot, because a lot of fireball or the wind or the cold arrow, sometimes you can just one shot a target, because even after you mitigate for 90%, it's still not good enough, and that's the reason why. Now if you have a Unity and you realize that with Unity or with Aquila Cuirass, the result is the same. So whether you use Unity or not, you can take a little bit more hit with the reduction, further reduction on what's happening. So you are taking overall 5% instead of 10% of the range attack damage. And if you have both Aquila Cuirass as well as Unity, of course, it drops further to you can mitigate 2.5%. Now, what it really means is that ignore the melee, and because the thing that kills a wizard, in my opinion, is not melee, it's the range. So if you are looking at the range, if you find that one arrow you take out majority of your life, then if you use both Aquila as well as Unity, you can take 4 of them instead of 1. Does it really matter or not? Well, it depends on your DPS, because by not using the chest items that's being cubed inside, or sorry, it's not the boot item, you actually reduce a lot on the meteor. And by not using Unity, you lose out on the conversion of element, which is a huge boost to your fire phase. So again, it depends on how much DPS you are willing to lose, but the mathematics is here to tell you that by using the Unity, it really does help you mitigate quite a fair bit of damage, and both will be even more. And you can look into even what happened when you stand still. When you stand still, it's at 14.72%. So this is this huge difference between the standing still as well as moving. And when it comes to if you are not mitigating through the Aquila Cuirass as well as the Cuirass as well as Unity and or Unity. So so this is something that what does it really say? Well, I think it does not matter which one you are mitigating with, be it as the Aquila, Cures, or Unity. I think in a group play environment, if you still feel fragile, Unity is not an option. So Aquila is the only one that you should consider. However, if you are solo rifting, then it is a choice between Unity and Aquila. I personally would take the Unity because losing the conversion of element is a little bit of a pain, but at least at least I'm boosted for my meteor. That is very helpful throughout the entire run from end to end. All right, so this is just some of the insight on what goes on when you worked out with mathematics on the damage reduction. And I hope you find it kind of like useful, because I know some of you like to listen to some numbers here and there and to make certain choices. And I hope it helps you in some way. And you can develop your spreadsheet in some way to kind of work out the mathematics about how damage reduction work. And what it really does is that you have to take different type of reduction and do a multiply across them after you do a 1 minus the reduction, of course. And well, I mean, that's it. My apologies for the noise just now. My wife was cooking, and my dinner is ready, so I need to go off. And I'll talk to you soon later. Bye.